Excited to bring you some. Oh, she's recording. Good. Um, very happy to join you today. And today we're going to bring you Jerry Lee Chilton, who's going to talk about how we put the stuff in the ground and how we grow it. And I just want to thank you all for joining with us as we worked through a couple of technical things over the last time. But Esther, who's looking right there, give me the thumbs up, Esther. She has got this down with Jason Root, who you don't see. So you'll see her videos, and everything's going to be really interesting as we continue. But today, you're going to get a chance to hear Jerry Lee Chilton. And I want to say, so Winona's Hemp, my little organization, has been growing hemp for 9 years under state and federal permits. I say this every time because it's really kind of an accomplishment. There's not that many people who grow fiber hemp. Everybody wants to grow marijuana, which is totally great, but we want to grow fiber hemp. And so doing that, we started many years ago, and everybody thought we were crazy. And Jerry Lee Chilton's father, Ron Chilton, and I started to grow this hemp together. And I've been really proud of our long relationship, but also that we have farmers on our reservation that know how, oh, Jerry Lee just left me. Farmers on our reservation that have been able to figure out how to do all of the pieces of farming with hemp. Because there's not there's a kind of a manual now, and we'll give you some pieces of that. And actually, we do have a manual on how to grow hemp. But, a lot of it is learning, a lot of it is prayer, a lot of it is just commitment and really just being in your field, because you can't just throw the seeds out and go, good luck, guys. You got to go out there and attend to them and see how they're doing, what nutrients they might need. And you have to have the right seed. We don't always have the right germination levels. Sometimes we get some bunk seed. And so you're sitting there and you have to put it in twice or three times. And Jerry Lee's going to tell you about that. But I want to say that we're kind of a story of how you figure out how to do it on your own with a lot of friends and talk to a lot of people and research it. And I think it's kind of like a field of dreams, what we have now. We really put our prayers out and our good thoughts out, and we've been growing now. We moved into a new field a couple of years ago that we were able to purchase from the RDO Offit Corporation. And Jerry Lee's going to tell you about our practice and what we learned, and a little bit about our history as an organization in working on it. That's Anishinaabe agriculture. So if that's good, I'm going to just let Jerry Lee and Esther take over with a sacred PowerPoint, and then they'll talk, and then we'll start asking questions, and we'll see what you guys need for more information. And we certainly have. Oh, I've frozen. Anyway, I'm gonna. I know. Anyway, I'm gonna get off that and let Jerry Lee take over. So thank you. So you don't see my frozen face. Yeah. What's your?
I'll push Esther out of my way here. Good afternoon, class. How was lunch?
Good.
It was good. So my name is Jerry Lee Chilton. My father, Ron Chilton, as you heard Winona just speak of, he was not really a pioneer, but obviously went on these adventures with Winona, and you know, 7 to 9 years ago, they started, trying to do hemp. And everybody thought they were crazy. There was no sense to it. Nobody knew anything about it. The practices and everything was pretty much done by trial and error. We're not, there is no book on hemp. There's no book on farming. Everything is deemed how your ancestors and how you think it should be. And I'm here to talk about a little bit about what we do here. Like I said, my name is Jerry Lee Chilton. I come from the White Earth Reservation. I lived there pretty much all my life. I was a big advocate of farming. My grandparents were farmers. And in the world of hemp, when I first learned about it with my father, he didn't really tell me many secrets about hemp or how to grow it or how to do anything in particular. It was basically trial as we go, get some thoughts from other people, try to figure out as we go. And I got a PowerPoint slide here that we're going to go through. We're going to talk about some stuff. I'm going to go through the things that hemp could be made of, things that I've seen and done that's a success. And then we'll stop periodically throughout the session here, and then just ask questions, answers, what everybody's been up to, kind of like engage in that, get everybody's thoughts. Like I said, feel free to ask any questions throughout this session here. I know it's kind of like a lot to learn in a short period of time, and where do we begin? Where do we start? All them sort of thing, questions that we do have. So that being said, we'll get to the PowerPoint first here. So bear with me.
Yeah, why is it like that?
So there we go.
I was gonna think it's see it though.
Can everybody see this? Yeah,
Yes,
you can. Okay, thank
yes,
you.
yes.
Yeah, so anyway, obviously this is what our organization is called, Anishinaabe Agriculture Institute. And basically, Winona started this endeavor a while back there, and our mission statement is to we're bringing egg sustainability to our culture, to our community, and also trying to get our community members and obviously do more research and development on hemp and on just gardening experience, gardening vegetables, et cetera, et cetera. So that being said, um, let's go through this here, base bar. And obviously meet the team here. So our left, we're going left to right. So we got Daryl Killian, who's the farmer. We got myself in the middle, and we got William Sayers, and then we got Darren Clare. He's more of the expert on the farming aspect of it, and he's my cousin. And then we got our young stud here, Nick Bellrock, who's from the local community, and we were pretty much you know um, all knew each other before this. So obviously, it's presented by myself. Industrial hemp is a pivotal agricultural crop within the realm of sustainability due to its malface, environmental benefits, and versatility. And obviously, we know that hemp grows at a rapid growth, minimal water, and obviously we can grow that without pesticides, herbicides, et cetera, et cetera. And obviously, the key here is sequestration of the atmospheric carbon positives. And then everything was made from hemp back in the day. Obviously, we did a lot of research on these, and we pulled up a lot of photos. This is not from obviously our ancestries of us personally. This is throughout the world. And obviously, hemp was used throughout the history of various cultures around the world. Obviously, hemp from China, and obviously the word cannabis is derived from the word cannabis. And as you can read here, obviously King Henry the Seventh, or actually the eighth, no, the seventh, yeah, King Henry the Seventh of England began prioritizing the growth of hemp in the 1533, excuse me. That being said, everybody at this particular point in time was growing hemp. And because everything at this point in time, mind you, was everything was made from hemp. Clothing was made from hemp, textile rope was made from hemp, chip masks were made from hemp. And we'll get into more of like what hemp was actually made throughout this, throughout our little PowerPoint here. And if you look at the bottom of this one here, it says over 400,000 acres of hemp being processed. That's that's unheard of. And obviously, you see here, there's some pictures of how they cut it down, and they stacked it up there, and they brought it to the mills. And this is what everything was made from now. As our little sheet here indicates, and it goes through everything that we're pretty much doing here today. And then what can we make from hemp now? Obviously, we got textiles, we make cordage for rope and building materials, which one we'll get a little bit in little later in our thing here and discuss about a few things. Automotive, fuel, compost, and food and feed. And this is one of our pictures that we did. We did on a farm, one of our north side farms, we call it. And this was made out of hempcrete. The panels, as you see here in both pictures. This was made by Matt Marino from Homeland Hempcrete in Bismarck, North Dakota. And this was just an addition. So we're trying out this addition to see what benefits obviously hemp does versus conventional house as we're tying into here because they're using just regular insulation. So these panels are all hempcrete. They're all made of hemp with a mixture of binder to make it hard and also to keep your bugs, keep all everything out of the panels there. And they're made in 4x8 sheets. They come pre-assembled and they're 1 foot thick. The R value is 24. No, that's R value is 24, the best that you could possibly get around this area. And it's Minnesota, we get pretty cold. And then obviously the left picture there is how we're tying everything in. Everything went really well as far as our structure. Our numbers were good. Everything was prefab ahead of time. So you see the windows, and then there's a door around the pole, there by the pole. And these are all, like I said, prefab. So when I called him, Matt Marino, he had all these panels, and it didn't take us more than a few hours to erect this building. That's how fast everything was. So they're 8 foot tall, 4 feet wide, 1 foot thick. And on the right side here is where we were down in Murray, Kentucky here. And I don't know if you all heard of Mr. Hempwood. And I toured his facility about a month and a half ago. And we'll talk about him later in the session. There's just some of the pictures and me and Mr. Greg Wilson there in one of his presses there. And then we got some samples over here to the right where you can see you see off to the left there corner of the table. That's what's going to be the new revolution there is going to be OHB. There it's originally was OSB, but obviously it's Oriental Hemp Board. They're trying to figure out the water to repel water because obviously hemp soaks up the water. And then you got your bioplastics there. You got a few duck calls, and you got a few things around the area there that's obviously made out of hemp wood. And we'll skip this one here. So basically, obviously, we got our little chart here. It says top three benefits of hemp. And obviously we got the soil improvement. And I got a thing that goes along with that. So the health, soil improvement, the hemp cultivation improves soil structure and fertility. And the deep root, prevents soil erosion, enhances soil aeration, and can break up, compacted soils. And obviously it's a good crop rotation. And then not only that, let's just say your ground is like, pretty toxic. Um, this helps up clean up some of the toxins in the ground. And it's not gonna, cure your soil overnight. It's gonna take some time when you're doing hemp, in your fields. You're gonna get that you're gonna, it's gonna break down the soils over time. And obviously here's a little chart here back when it first, started coming around here was 2017. And you can see the numbers here, and obviously it peaked off in 2020. And I think the reason why that happened was obviously CBD was pretty big, coming out of the gates there in 2020. So, and then everybody, the land and everything started to go down. So, and this is what some of our pictures here is that nice little shiny tractor. That's what we use in our fields. And we'll tell you a little bit more about that as we go through the process here. And we buy our seed from not really local people, but obviously trusted vendors, trusted sources. And mind you that this hemp seed, has got a germination rate of about 80%. And it tells us right on the bag. Each one of these bags here that we see in front of us, 50-pound bags. I'll go a little bit more detail about, I'll talk more about going into detail about that. We're just showing you a few things here in the slideshow. Talk more of that. And the interesting thing here, the next slide here is the super crop header that we had specialty made from Beach Enterprises that hooked up, to our John Deere combine. And this is supposed to get the greens off the top of off the top of our hen. And obviously, then after we take the seed off, you're still going to have a lot of stalks that's left. And and obviously we use another machine that's specialty to that, and that's the fiber cutter, as you see on the right. And both of these pieces of equipment were roughly about $60,000 to $70,000 a piece. Let's get out of here. All right, that being said, that was just some of the things that we are up to. I'm gonna start back over again pretty much and basically like talk about, like how we grow hemp and what we do. So obviously it first starts out, you got to get a permit. And right now we go through the MDA of the cities. We apply for the permit. And once you go through all the hoops and hurdles, you got to pay a good healthy fee for that. You got to do a background check. You got to get fingerprinted. You got to go through all the necessary steps of how you're going to do that, and they give you a number. And then once you do that, and it's obviously not free sailing, you just don't, we just don't go plant yet. There's still other things that we got to do. Then when we get our permit, then we're going to go to our field and we're going to take a sample early of our soil. And once we take a sample of our soil, we're going to have that tested. And I'm going to have that tested for multiple reasons to see what my soil is lacking, so when I do plant, it can be successful. So I'm going to get the report back from the agency where I got it from, and they're going to tell me that I need more nitrogen. So then I'm going to go to my local vendor and I figure out what's going to work for everybody because our organization is non-GMO. We don't use pesticides, herbicides, any of that stuff. We're all natural. So we think outside the box. We're trying fish emulsion. We're trying, fish from Red Lake. We're grinding it up. We are we got professors, the University of Minnesota. They're helping us out with soil samples and try to get a better crop for whatever we're doing. And once those are all in place, you got to figure out the next step after that is what kind of seeds are you gonna acquire? Is it going to be for textiles? Is it going to be for grain? Is it going to be for CBD? All that stuff that you got to ask yourself is what's going to make sense about what you're trying to achieve here. And for us over at AAI, we are into the textiles. So we're going to do a multi-variety crop, which is grain on top, so we can reuse the seeds. And then we're looking for fiber. So we reach out to people all across the world here, and we have Chinese variety, Yuma, and we also got Anka seed, Derek Dolman. We have some Canada seeds, and we just have just a variety of all over the place. And we're just trying to figure out which seeds are going to be the best for your location. Not all varieties are going to be what you want it to be, I guess. There's, like I said, there's trial and error. Like what regions is it going to be sandy? Is it going to be black dirt? Is it going to be clay? What's your what's your ground look like? And when it comes to that, there's a couple methods of how you're going to put this product into the ground. My father was just basically he would fill everything all up, put his fertilizers in of what he wanted, then he would just basically like throw your seeds out and he would just cover them about, you know, half inch to three-quarters of inch of dirt over top of it with a rake. It didn't matter if it was in rows, it didn't matter about your spacing. It just didn't matter. It was 50 pounds of seed per acre. And that's one bag per acre. And if you're getting it into like what we call super sacks from the vendors, they're uh they're in big bulk, like thousands of pounds. And your machine of whatever you're using in your field has got a gauge on it. It's going to tell you, and you can set that to 30, 40, 50, 60 pounds per acre. And what that's going to do is that's going to drown out the weeds. It's going to suppress the weeds after you start growing your initial crop. Because once your hemp starts taking off, it's going to start to form a canopy and it's going to drown out those weeds. And the hemp is going to take over the weeds. It's not going to, the weeds are going to grow, but not as well as, if you had corn or anything, a variety like that that had, spacing. And that was one form. Number two form is what I'm using a seed drill. And I'm using a seed drill from modern technology. I got my rows spacing at 6 inches apart, roughly about 2 to 3 inches apart. And I'm about half inch to about three-quarters inch deep. And I got a gauge on my stuff on mine that says how much pounds do I want per acre? And 50 is the magic number. Anything more, you ain't really gaining much. Because it tells you on the bag that it's 80% germination rate when you want to try to grow your seeds. And there's math involved in there about what your mortality rate and your death rate of per seeds. You can try to figure that out. But my magic number is about 60 to 65 pounds per acre. That just basically boosted my germination rate from 80 to about 95%. And it might take me a little bit more money to get, to the same as 50 pounds per acre, but I'm just more guaranteeing my more seeds that is being brought into here. So I just want to pause right there for a second. Anybody got any questions? Okay, let's go down to the chat here and see what we got.
How much seeds are in a 50-pound bag?
50 pounds.
Yeah, just they don't
Count them?
charge you. They don't charge you by the seed there. They just throw it on a scale there in 50 pounds. So I'm
Okay.
thinking it's like right around a couple thousand, probably like 20,000 seeds or so. And I got samples that is right next to me here that we did last year. We basically combined our field and then I dried my own seeds. And I gave some to a local lady down the road here. She's feeding them to her chickens, and they're going to get more protein out of that. Any other questions? What else?
Yeah,
And
I have a
obviously,
question. I have a
go ahead.
question.
Go
Can
ahead.
the equipment that you're using be adapted for horses?
No,
No. But
no,
I mean, I've seen like the seed drills from the Amish and
yes,
stuff like that, and you can
yes,
plant with those.
yeah, we also have our own. We do have horse equipment that's similar to what we do in the fields for our tractors. And we do that on a smaller scale. And obviously that's what's called R&D research on our own little farm that we got. So we're doing stuff over there. So when we do stuff with horses, we compare it to what we do in the ground on a smaller scale. Like we're using fish emulsion, we're using horse manure, we're using chicken manure. And obviously
Mhm.
that stuff has been composted, so it's not raw. We let that stuff in our fields for a while. So
But is there any reason you can't use like a seed drill, like with horses to
yeah,
plant?
you can. Yeah, you can if you're just doing some smaller stuff here.
Mhm.
And that's I kind of forgot to mention. Sorry about that. But yeah, on our scale over at AAI, we're doing like 40 to 60 acres, mind you.
Mm. Mhm.
And we're more of the higher end here, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in our little session here. Yeah, that I mean, horses work great, and it's personal preference on what you want to use. Obviously you want that carbon footprint to be down. If that's what everybody's into.
Mhm.
Any other questions so far pertaining to the seeds? And we'll jump more into the hempcrete here. I see in the side here. And another gal mentioned how deep is your seed drill, and I mentioned that it's going to be about a half inch to 3/4 inch deep. And what you're going to do there, because not every seed drill is going to be, accurate. You're going to, make some adjustments on your machine. What we do is we lay out a tarp. And we lay out a tarp and then we roll the seeds over that to figure out how much seeds are dropping for our rate. Then also we will take the tarp off. We will go for a little stretch. We will dig up some seeds and then get a measurement on how far we're down below the earth there. So everything is, right on our level.
I'm just gonna add in something on the scale and horse. There's one of those like walk
Broadcasters.
along
Yeah.
planters. Do you know
Yeah.
what I'm talking
Broadcasters.
about? It's like got a little wheel and you just walk along in your row. You know what I'm saying? Like a hand planter. And we did in our test plots some use of that. So you can do different scales and then you can use the horse seed drill. But part of what we're talking about here is that this isn't cannabis and this isn't CBDs. This is like fields. And, and when you get to larger scale, horses are probably good for maybe 20 acres, 30 acres. If if you're really on it, you could do that. But we're talking about thousands of acres here.
Right.
So you need the big equipment and the big guys like Jerry Lee to do that. And the other thing I want to say is that, so the seed varieties that Jerry Lee was using, we sourced them from the Czech Republic. The Canadians were like X59s, and those were like 50-50. I don't know. They're pretty good. The Canadians are coming in strong for our region. But again, as I said in the first class, one of our goals is to try to make sure that we own the seeds and we adapt seeds for our region, because there's Chinese and the Czech. We grew Spanish seeds from Spain. We grew French seeds, Italian seeds. They're all good. But ultimately, what you're going to want is seeds that are kind of for your region. And maybe your region is Spain, over here, right? But that's what we're trying to figure out. That's all I want to say, Jerry Lee. Back at it.
All right. Yeah, thank you, Winona. And then also just kind of like not really piggyback off that, but going to some of these questions is like, where do you get the seed from? And obviously there's some distributors in everybody's area. We're obviously not all from Minnesota. Um, there's some distributors out there that we can get the seeds, and these are they're going to be making sure that when you're doing the industrial hemp seeds or whatever seeds you're going to do, besides CBD, that number of THC level is already going to be included into those seeds. So you're going to know that you're not buying hot seeds, and then you're going to have to torch your field because it wasn't within specs of your permit. So the bags that we seen in a little video there, that those bags were already tested prior to this. And the THC level, because that's one of the criterias on your application, you got to be 0.3% or lower THC to have a successful crop in your region. And if you have above that, they will demand that you burn your field, you get rid of that product. You won't fall in with a good successful season if you're THC and that you bought hot seeds. It probably ain't going to end well for you. So that's why we go to some of the people that we do for the distributors, because we know that it's going to fall below the guidelines of the THC level. And we're paying about $4 to $6 a pound for these seeds. So it gets pretty pricey, in terms of that. And then we'll just go on from there. And I see a lot more people chiming in, which is good. And then once we figure out your seed variety, we're going to plant in the ground. Whether it's broadcasting, like Winona said, with a hand seed, whether it's horses, whether it's on a big scale farming equipment. We're just gonna go ahead and do we're gonna get on our whatever we need, our equipment there, seed drills, tractors, and then we're gonna work up our spot, get our plants into the ground. And then once that takes place, and there's a couple things that go along with that. So when you want to plant is probably right around the last frost you get, end of May, early first part of June. That's when you want to do it, because the summer solstice, helps during that process, because you're going to get more time during those weeks before that turns on. Because, in the plant cycle, once it starts growing out of the ground, it's going to hit that spot, then it's going to tell it to either keep growing or we're going to start trying to flower out. That's why it's so important to get this hemp into the ground before June, first week of June. And then what you're also looking at is, you should probably look at your weather and probably plant at least a couple days early before it rains, so that when the seeds are into the ground, you get a little bit of rain in there, and that's what's going to help the germination start the process. So we're going to let that, look at the weather. We're going to go ahead and plant. We're going to watch our watch our hemp grow. Once we do that, it's basically a preference at that point. Once you get up for about 4 to 5 weeks, you'll see it start to rise and start opening up a canopy. And it's supposed, and then the weeds, are really not suppressed at that point, but they're not growing. They're not taking the nutrients away from your plant. And you can either do what we do is we had a homemade cultivator that we adapted to a tractor, and basically went in between our rows and killed some of our weeds. And we can't really do that with hemp because if you're broadcasting it, your seeds are all over. You'll probably destroy your hemp. And that's why I like using the seed drill, is because you got that spacing and you can see that spacing. So it's a personal preference of what you want to do. Any way is right, in my eyes, as long as you're, good with your end result. So that being said, and everything ties in for a reason. So you got your permit, you got your seeds, you got your fertilizer and all that stuff in there at the same time. And what they don't tell you about this product is after 10 days after you planted your seeds, you have to go and you have to file a report to the USDA. It's a little branch in your local area, and it's called this in where we live, Minnesota here, it's the FSA. And once you got to go to FSA, you got to fill out a couple forms about what you planted, and then they will forward that to the MDA, which you had your certificate, saying and knowing that you planted these hemp seeds. So nobody can turn you in, for thinking it's marijuana. And then also your legal beagle. So any questions at that point?
I just have a question about if your soil, for instance, I'm on like an old 80-acre farm. I have varying soil. Like my soil up top is clay. My soil down in the lower fields is sandy, black bottom. How do can you know in advance how to buy, if I want to buy soil for the upper clay portion? How can I know how to buy seed for the soil?
Yes. Yes, and that's where the dealers will come in because they'll ask you about your conditions. Like if you're in sandy or clay or black dirt, what's your content of soil? And they will help you choose the best variety. And let's just say your temperature is varying too, like Minnesota. We got that belt region where we grow from May to September. And they have that. And obviously each brand and each seed is variable because it'll be temperature sensitive. Like certain seeds will require 50%, 50-degree temperatures to do, like sunflower seeds, for instance. So there's a lot to do with that, but obviously, in hemp, there's a lot of people that are interested in hemp, but a lot of people, like even for me, for instance, I don't know it all. I'm just, doing what other people have done in our region, and we're just doing it on a higher scale and trying to do that because what we're into textiles. And I'll share that with you, as we go through this, go through the stage here, because there's really cool things and really things that, we all take for granted of what hemp could be, like what the level of hemp should be at. And everybody's scared of it. And we'll talk in more detailed about how much money you could get off what you're doing. Um, like what it is that you're thinking of. And there's the sky is the limit, in my opinion, in hemp, because there's so much to do. And like I said, it will just blow our minds, like that, because there's so much potential out there. So that being said, we'll roll forward. We've put our seeds in the ground. We went through the reporting process accurately. And then what I do is I have a sheet that I print out for every week, monitoring my conditions, whether it was sunny and 70 to rainy and 45 degrees. I do all that, monitor my sequence there to see, where it is that the hemp grew the best. Was it on sunny days? Was it on cloudy days? Was it midday? What was it? Was it a dewy mornings? And just get my baseline there to figure out what I can do, better, or, try to get my crop yield up there. So once I get once I do all that, so let my crops grow. And we're fortunate over here in our region here. I do have a water irrigation system, and it just goes round and around in my field. I can turn it on, I can shut it off. I can manipulate, the weather a little bit. I don't want to drown my hemp. But ultimately, everybody's goal of hemp should be about 8 to 10 feet tall. It should be pinky sized, or maybe a ring finger, middle finger in thickness at the base, if you're going to do fiber. And we'll go into all that here when we go through some of this other stuff here. And once you get to about 8 to 10 foot high, which is 90 days, 90-day crop, I'm pretty sure it says that on the bag. But it's up to your preference at that point to cut it early, cut it late, whatever you deem so. There's no right or wrong answers on what you're trying to do here. We do let it grow out to the full 90. And then before I get to my 90, I'm at 60 days. I call the MDA, and I said, hey, I need to schedule a THC testing. So they'll say, all right, when do you want it? And I'm gonna say, well, I'm at 65 days. I would like it to be about 80 days or so. So then they're gonna come out, they're gonna take samples of each one of my fields. They're going to go back to the lab. They're going to test it for THC. And they're going to give you results back to 3 to 5 days in an email, or they'll call you and say, something happened. And all of our fields, they tested out good. They were under. We had one variety, and that was the Chinese, that we had to have it retested because the gal didn't get it accurate, I guess I should say, because they're the ones that take the snippets, of the seeds and some other stuff. And it was just a little bit high on the THC content. And when I was telling you before, that should have fell below the 0.3%. So then I had the lady come back out again, and sure enough, it fell within the guidelines of what we needed to do. Once you get that okay, then you can figure out what you're going to do next. When you're going to harvest, when you going to do things. And at that 90 days, I've got all my stuff tested, everything passed. When I get my old nice combine out there, and I get my nice header out there, and I'm combining the grain. And obviously the grain is going to be, stuff in here. And it goes through my combine, it's a little bit dirty. And once I do that, then I'm going to offload that, and I'm going to go to a dryer, dry my seeds out, because you don't want them to sit very long because they get moldy. Once you dry them out, then you can either reuse them,
I'll
resell
back
them,
you up
whatever
even
you
though I
want
have
to
no idea. I mean, it sounds great. So I don't know the ins and outs, but
do. Was that a question?
I think so.
Well, I think they were just talking.
It's a
Oh,
random
okay.
conversation. You might want to tell people to mute their mic.
Yeah. No, but anyway, once I'm done with that, I'll go with my fiber cutter. my fiber cutter. And that is about a 14-foot long bar. And depending on how tall you are in a conversation, 8 to 10 feet. I got two sickle blades on there, and then that varies in height. So I got a bottom height and a top height. And then I can swing them out at the same time. You know, it's going to saw back and forth. It's going to cut my hemp down. And I'm going to let my crop sit in the field for at least a couple weeks. Why do you ask that? Because you're going to let your product retting. You're going to let Mother Nature take that strong bond that becomes the fiber in the herd, the pectin. And you're going to let Mother Nature work for you. And you got to be careful because, you know, during that process, if you let it lay too long, it's gonna mold, it's gonna get mildewy. So you got to be very careful about what how you're gonna do that with the weather. And then once you do that, you let it ret for a while. Then what we do is we use modern baling equipment. We do our stuff in round bales. And we're about a 750-pound bale. And we're just going to rake it up like normal people would. And I'm going to bale it. And once I bale it, I'm going to store it in my facility. And then depending on like what you want to do with it, a lot of people just sell it by the bulk, by the hundred, by the ton. They call it the ton. And there's processors around our region that will buy the whole bale from you, whether it's heavy duty square bale or it'll be a heavy duty round bale. They will buy your bales at the processors for roughly $250 to about $300 a ton. And obviously a ton is 2,000 pounds. So you got to figure out if that's going to be worth it to you or not by doing hemp. What's it costing you? Does it make any sense? What are your motives? What are your goals in the situation? Our goals is we store everything in-house. We're looking to do our own stuff in terms of hempcrete, just like it was saying in our little chat here. And I see that we're talking about drying. It's a good question. So you can either dry these in a couple ways. You know, they sell dryers, or you can, in my case here, I did mine air drying. I put all my seeds on this big long table. I set them aside. I made sure that, I'm looking at my seeds and they're not wet and have moisture around them. And I'm running a little air on them. So it's taking the moisture that was in your combine off the plant, and you're slowly drying these. And then I'm going to turn these, by hand. Or you can do it like any other farmer, bring it to the grain bin, have them put air on it, rotate it. It's going to cost you money. And, we're not quite there over at AAI yet. We're trying to figure that sequence out of our seeds because it's a high volume when you're dealing with 40 to 60 acres. You just ain't going to put them in your shed and try to do that. You got to have a higher scale of what you're trying to do here and what's your intention. Is your intention to reuse your seeds? Is your intention to bake these and eat them? Because you can. You can bake these and feed them to your chicken for protein, what have you. Yeah. And I was looking at the chats here. It says it don't make a bit of sense if you're trying to get rich quick. You're not. And the reason why this ain't a get rich quick scheme is because the processors don't know what the intention of the end product is going to be. There's too many samples. There's too much variety there. There's no clean cut slate. So let's just say we'll get into that discussion right now. So like Van shoes, this hemp product will go into your Van shoes and your soles. And their criteria is maybe, let's just say, I want my hemp fiber at 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch long. Well, certain processors are not set up like that. You got to find somebody specialty to shear this stuff and get it to the market. Levi jeans, I want 1.5 inch, 1 3/4 fiber, so I can sew it into my jeans. You know, and these processors are mostly on they're at the verge of herd. And I got samples here of herd. Basically, it looks like bark. Looks like bark. They're using that into the hempcrete. That's where this industry is taking off the most, is the construction side of it. All right. And so yeah, I mean, comments about this, you know, about the quick get rich scheme, you know, it's if you're trying to just bale it like local farmers and sell it like that, you're not going to get rich, because you know, you got to figure out like what you want with this product. And the processors will just take the herd and they won't do nothing with the fiber and wool, which I got right here, because they don't know how to separate it. And we found a company down in Alabama, Bascor, that figured out how to get these finer things out of there and get it down to a weavable thing. Go ahead, Winona.
I just want to add in a little bit with Jerry Lee here. So the industry is just developing across North America. France has been making hempcrete houses, textiles. Everybody's been doing it but us, right? Because we had to be the country that banned everything, along with Canada. They burned the books. So when Jerry Lee is talking about like, you ain't gonna get rich quick, you definitely ain't gonna get rich quick. But we're all just trying to figure out how to make it work. And our interest is really in finding the correct equipment, because that's what Jerry Lee is saying, is it depends on what you want. So textiles, you can't have all nasty stuff. You can have it pretty fine and small pieces if you're gonna blend it into something that's gonna turn into like the Patagonia bag, right? That's you know, and that was degummed, and I think I'll show you guys the bag, but I think you saw that bag on the initial presentation. So that, as Jerry Lee said, again, we grew the hemp, then it went to North Carolina to get decorticated, it went to Virginia to get degummed, it went to Mexico to get spun, it went to Washington State to get woven, it went to California to get cut, and so on. And that's ridiculous, really. We really just want to make her local, right? But none of those industries is scaled or available. We're looking at a project with 8th generation blankets. They're really cool people that do indigenous blankets, right? We have to get our hemp and our wool blended, you know, and so the industry was deconstructed. Should I just say that? The textile industry was deconstructed and offshored to China and Pakistan. Every like Bemidji woolen mills, Thief River Falls woolen mills, they don't exist anymore, you know, at a scale of production. And so what we're doing is rebuilding an appropriately scaled industry. And so that's why you're not going to make $1 million. And that's why most people just go for cannabis. They're like, yeah, let's just go get rich. We're not trying to get rich. We're going to save the world, and we're going to grow hemp and sequester carbon, and we're going to make canvas. And so to make the canvas, you got to have the right kind of textiles. And then, as Jerry Lee said, the byproduct of the herd, you know, we're looking at, you know, I mean, Jerry Lee, we were just looking at the fact that they you know, for blowing through the easy reader, what's it called?
Easy spray application for hempcrete.
Yeah, that has to be like the right size, right? And so nobody processes it correctly yet. You know, they're still getting the lime binder. I'm working on a proposal. The lime binder to make hemp lime is coming from France. That's crazy that you're importing hemp lime binder from France. We need to figure out how to make all this stuff here. And so all of the industry is slowly developing. And, you know, there's a bunch of us native people and other people that have been going from smart guy to smart guy, literally, who's like, I got the equipment and I can do everything. And half of it's made up. I don't know how else to say it, but you're like, really? What comes out of that equipment? Let me see it. I've had so much smoke and mirrors in this thing, I never thought I'd see anything like that. But it's super interesting. But we don't want to buy the wrong equipment and then get stuck with $1 million worth of stuff we can't use, because that would be not smart. And so we're trying to figure out the correct and appropriately scaled equipment. And the kind of guy who can do that is Jerry Lee. Like, I look at a piece of equipment, I'm like, that's cool. I look at what comes in and what goes out. That's my interest. But what happened in between, I don't get that. But so this is really all hands on deck, and everybody has like a certain skill. A lot of our native people are super like people who can fix anything. That's our guys up here. We can make wild rice processing equipment. So I am sure we can make, decortication equipment that works correctly, and we can take care of it. But it's all hands, like we all got to work on this learning together, which is part of the reason we're having this class. Anyway, that's all my two cents to add to Jerry Lee.
All right.
Can I
So-
say something?
I
Yeah,
got
go
a
ahead.
question.
Yeah.
Can I say something? I'm Charlie from California, and we're trying to save the world with Hemp 2 and get laughed at when I said this is the solution for world peace. But we did get it on the table in California. As far as the decarbonization of the state level, they were looking at lithium and all this other stuff, and I said, well, what about hemp? And then had a separate meeting with the state decision makers. So they asked me to put a proposal in, which was, I had 3 days to do it, but I said I can do it. And they said, if you don't put it in, because it had to be market ready, there were 3 criteria. It had to be sustainable, replicable, and market ready in 6 months. I said, it's not market ready in 6 months. It's going to take a while because it's still criminalized in California. But they said, if you submit the proposal, it'll be on the table and be at the discussion of decarbonizing California. So I did get it in, it was accepted. So we're at those early stages of changing the policies that you're talking about. And I guess that now California has decriminalized it, but getting the seed is where we're at, trying to source the seed. But I think that there's a lot of indigenous people, and there's some people here in Lake County, north of Napa, which is north of San Francisco, who's trying to get the farmers in the Midwest producing hemp to produce for fuel, biofuels. And so you're not alone, and I'm really glad you're doing the class. I'm glad to be talking with some people, because we're just starting out, and just getting the seed is a whole big deal. But there's some producers in Las Vegas that we've talked to, and other ones up in Portland. But the Portland connection said that they wouldn't even deal with the United States because it was too complicated as far as selling and purchasing the seed. So I'm really listening careful to what you're saying, and just to know that California's, is there where it's on the table.
Thank you. I had another guy wanted to ask a question. Go ahead.
About the lime, is there certain kinds of lime that you have to use?
Yes.
Because in Alaska, there's lime deposits that I talked to the lands people up here.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just wondering about that.
Yeah, there's different kind of limes. For instance, the E-Reezy spray application from Mr. Cameron from New York. He was pretty much the E-Reezy guy there for the hempcrete for the spray, and he only uses stuff that was imported from Europe,
Okay.
Europe and France, and that's a special kind of lime agent that mixes with the herd here in our little bag here, and that sticks to whatever you're trying to do. And then for the panels, it's a different kind of lime that goes with that, because you can have a different mixture. You can buy your lime from Menards or Home Depot, and then you got to add a little bit of extra lime extract from what we would do for concrete. No, it's not really silica. They call it a different thing, but anyway, it goes on your tabletops, countertops. It mixes in with that, and once you do mix it both with that, then you've got your solution for, that. So they're using 2 different limes in your hempcrete panels. You're using 1 lime into your E-Reezy spray application where you spray the hemp into whatever you're doing.
Okay,
And then the
another
other,
thing is,
go ahead.
what you guys are talking about, the ground samples, I did all that. In NRCS, they said that they didn't have no nutrients. But then what's funny, I bumped into this guy that he's he's growing out of Homer, Alaska, and he's on the board for the for that NRCS for the soil samples. And he said NRCS is lying to me and saying that there's no nutrients that they give. So that's where I'm at and having a hard time. I haven't even found I had land yet, or I had land, but the person I was working with, he wasn't a U.S. citizen, and so he just stopped helping me. And I'm still at the position of finding land and doing soil samples.
Oh, so you're almost kind of in the stage of what Charlie just recommended earlier about, making a plan, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
haven't even put any hemp into the ground, have you?
No, I haven't.
And your biggest hurdle right now is what? Is it
Just
soil?
finding land now. I've been trying to call to some of these tribes in Alaska, but some of them, they're not even trying to help me or work with me with land. Um, that's even my own tribe where I come
Yeah.
from. I don't understand why, but that's where I'm at.
But yeah, and I think Ronald, we're all in the same boat you are. I mean, these tribes around our area, and that's why we're not doing anything with the tribe because they passed on us. They thought we were
Yeah,
crazy. They
yeah,
thought we were local.
yeah. That's where I'm at, and you know, um, if I could get some help from you guys on that end.
Like, what's your goal, Ronald? 5 acres, 10 acres?
Um, right now we could work with 5 acres.
That sounds doable.
Um,
Reach out to us in your email in the chat, whatever, and we can copy that and we can chat outside of this Hemp 101.
okay, what I'm going for fiber and hempcrete in CBD. Just to put that out there. So yeah, I'll reach out to you guys in the emails. Thank you so much.
You bet. You bet. I just want to hit one more question here before we take a 2 o'clock break here. I know it's 2:06. Well, I'm going to go back to one of these questions up here about trying to get the hemp seeds out of the plant. So basically, we got a special combine and we got our header and it's shaped like a V here. And once the plant goes through here, it snips it and then the rotors go like this and then the seeds go on a conveyor and it goes into my combine in the back of me. And all my extra junk that I just chopped off from the top of it will be extracted out the back. That was quick. It's good. So yeah, that being said here, let's just take a little short break here for about 5 minutes here and we'll reconvene here and we'll go through some more stuff here. So thank you for your patience and we'll get back to it here shortly.
Thank you.
What if we don't take a break? Does anybody want to talk?
How are you guys doing today? Where's everybody from? Anchorage, Alaska, I'm at.
And I'm in Napa Valley, California. We do have our land and we're ready to plant. We did get permission from the USDA. We're the first Native American project to get funding from the USDA after the Native American Farmer Fund sued them because for prejudice. So we started an indigenous plant garden we had permission to grow hemp. But now
Well,
it
look.
sounds like we have to get a city or county permit. So I'll look into that. We're working with the local RCD and the NCRS. They've been very supportive of all of our attempts. And we're setting up a model for the county, but also for San Francisco and Lake County, working around water. We want to use the hemp to nitrogenate the soil to help the soil be healthier. So we're hoping to do that using it just as a green mulch to start with.
Nice.
I'm calling in from Northeast Iowa, near where Iowa, Wisconsin, and Minnesota meet along the Mississippi River. So I'm way north in Iowa. What's interesting to me about the recent discussion is that I can see in our area there are lime kilns. Okay, they used to take the lime rock and crush it and make it into lime. The lime kilns are still here, as well are the microhydro operations that were on creeks around here for weaving wool and all this stuff. So it's like the technology existed. And you can even see it on like Amish farms where they're using like little microhydro. You can get them from Canada, little microhydro units you can drop into a creek for about $700. So I think it's available I'm interested on a small scale in growing hemp for use in building. So I want the fiber. And I can do it with horses because I'm only talking about 10 acres at most. My biggest field is probably 10 acres. Most of my fields are just like 5 acres. Yeah, so anyway, it's really fascinating. It's like bringing something back that has already been done before.
Yes, it is.
Mhm.
I learned about hemp probably about 10 years ago, and I just been liking the hempcrete and the positives about it.
But isn't Anchorage too far north?
Mm, Anchorage, Alaska. Well, I'm guessing if we could probably grow in high tunnels, year round.
Huh.
I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure about the plant itself growing here, but I'm pretty sure it can.
Well, I think you need like 6 months.
6 months for it to grow.
Yeah, well, like from spring until equinox, at least here, if we're talking about growing things, hemp grows naturally all around here. And it starts out really early in the spring, but by fall equinox, it's reached its apex. And that's when it needs to be harvested.
Nice.
And
I know they grew some hemp up here. You DNR and they grew it through October.
okay.
But they were supposed to call and let me see their crop at one point, but I haven't heard from nobody about from DNR letting me see their crop. I was hoping I got to see it last year when I asked, but I haven't heard from them.
I wanted to just say a couple of things, kind of listening to y'all and just contributing today a little bit. First, Alaska has a lot of light. So I don't know, they got to figure that one out. I think test plots are a good way to start. Go get yourselves hemp point. Look online. There's all kind of hemp seeds, but don't go CBD. Like look for the big time, like actual hemp. I think even hemp warehouse, like there's all kind of seeds. And I'm sure that Esther could provide kind of a list of some of our seed sources. I forget all their names, Horizon Seeds, all kind of folks, but we can send that out. You just want a little bit. So that's one thing. And you just got to test it. That's part of what we're trying to say here is you should just give it a try. There you go. There's another
Yeah,
seed.
I remember I
Right.
talked
So
to you a little bit ago, Winona, and you told me about a seed called Future.
Futura.
Yeah.
Yeah, Futura, we've done a lot of I think that we've probably grown about 20 different varieties. Plus we have the feral seeds that we're working on trying to adapt that. And I talked to you guys about this in the first class, I think, trying to take the ditchweed and adapt it so that it's the seed of the future, because we think it is probably the seed of the future. So that's just like a note. The second thing is that Jerry Lee, and so our tribe, Jerry Lee and our same tribe, we don't have a hemp permitting process. A lot of tribes do. So if you're a tribal person, a native person that's in this, your tribe might have hemp permits that they issue. So go to them. Our tribe went directly to cannabis, decided not to do hemp. And so that's why we have the federal permits is to grow on res, and the state permits is to grow off res. So that's why we did like Finola. We thought that was a good variety too. I see Tony is asking me that. Yeah, so we're just kind of by any means necessary because we're trying to figure it out. And the other thing though is that I think that this issue of the 0.3% is a very significant issue. Some of the tribes are looking to change that percentage, and I think it should be changed, because if you're silly enough to try to get high off of Jerry Lee's hemp crop, you probably need your head looked at anyway, because you aren't going to get high, off of going to make hemp pasta seeds or something, right? So the other thing is that for the people, I think that we haven't tried it because we're the fiber people and we don't have a large amount of marijuana waste. Is that what I'm saying? Like the stalks, the not bud, right? We don't have any of that stuff, but I think some people are taking that and running it through a thing called a hammer mill, which Jerry Lee can explain to you, but basically obliterates it. You can probably make hemp cob out of that. Cob, meaning like, what I'm saying with not necessarily, you can't use the spray gun,
Yeah.
because that needs I don't know what it is. I can't remember the name of that thing, but you can't use the spray gun with it because it gets all wound up in there. But I'm just saying, if you got marijuana in your area, like Oregon, California, take that stuff, run it through a hammer mill, and see if you can make some small addition to a house on it, or something like that. So it's not the same, just hemp itself, because all of the cannabis plants have this same hurd and textile fiber. But the thing is that we are growing for tall straight, because you don't want to try to decorticate and get a fiber off of something that looks like this, like all branched out like a Christmas tree, right? So,
Yep.
we're all learning together, but I just wanted to, add in a few comments. And then the big cheese is back, Jerry Lee, to talk more about the field. And I think you explained, I don't know if I didn't see if you showed the equipment, like the fiber cutter. Like we bought all kind of expensive equipment because we knew that we were not going to be able to do this if we didn't have the correct equipment. Because we're not like Jerry Lee's not little, like we're not like little garden project. We're big. And we see like our projections are we're going to double and triple our production, but we're only going to do this and then get more farmers to do it, because Jerry Lee probably doesn't want to do 600 acres. He probably could, because we got the team and the equipment to do it, but don't challenge him. Is that what he said? He'll be at 600 right away. What's my point? If you want to do construction, Esther, don't we have a figure on like how many acres of hemp, or how many, if you need 9,000 pounds of hemp herd? I was looking at that figure today to make a rambler, right? At 1,200 square foot, or so I don't know how many pounds of hemp herd there is in an acre, but that might be an acre worth or
1,500
something.
pounds. I think isn't it 1,500 pounds of herd per acre? Like out at Sisseton and here of herd, they figured.
I think it's more, because it's
We
it
got
depends
too
on
many numbers in our head today. I
it's more
can't
than that,
remember.
because it's 70% of the plant is herd.
Yeah.
And if you're getting 10 bales an acre, you have that, Esther has that math someplace. But my point is that few acres, you could probably build a house, but I'm not sure, because you need 9,000 pounds of hemp herd, and that's got to get processed into really good, usable material. So, all of this is kind of a learning and a scale, and you might want to start small, and then, but, the herd is the one part, but we're going for the textiles, which is of course the hardest part. Here, I'm going to just show one more time my cool hemp bag.
You mean this one?
Oh my God.
Hey, we're twins.
This is, I mean, the thing that's cool is that this is our hemp. That our families, Jerry Lee's family, my family, we all grew this hemp. We get a lot of credit from Patagonia, which I always report because I'm like, oh yeah, where's it say on this little bitty thing? I gotta look all the way in the bag to find it. But anyway, my point is that this textile stuff, you got to get like the right textile material for that. And so this is, this is the trick. But that's not, I mean, what a great challenge to figure that one out. I mean, somebody made canvas for hundreds of years to ride around in colonial ships. So we should be able to figure this one out. We should be able to figure this one out. And the question that we're after is like how to do it without destroying the planet. Which I think is a question we should all ask. So, all right, I chime off again.
All right, thank you very much. Going back to what we were talking about there, and Winona hit the nail on the head there. So Minnesota and Sisseton, South Dakota, we're going to be revisiting the Sweet Corn Treaty. And we're going to be building two houses, on a scale that makes sense for our region, some smaller levels for some elders. And we are working with those guys, and they did 30 acres, I believe, of some of our seeds there, and that's why it's so important to band together. We started a co-op so that we can, be diverse, because not all soils are the same, as we discussed there. So in terms of that, we took two bales down to Bass Core, Alabama, one from Minnesota, one from South Dakota. And we had that processed. And the one from South Dakota was about 1,200 pounds heavy. And they decorticated that, broke it all down. And then they got pretty good testing from that. So Bass Core down in Montgomery, Alabama, they're more working with the textile industry. He's been around for about 10 plus years, the longest one on the market, and he's using old-fashioned cotton gins, from the South, along with some other modern technology to break these down. What I mean, they, as in hemp, break hemp down, and he's getting it to a weavable textile. And not very many people are on that realm or platform as he is right now. And he's working with Carhartt and Levi jeans. So that's just a facet of some of the stuff here. And we're going to go into, some of the stuff for hemp, like what it could make, what you may be after, what, might blow our minds. And obviously, our industry has been around for hundreds and thousands of years of hemp. And we used bale twine, baling our bales, conventional, alfalfa bales, and all that was hemp, made out of hemp. And why we got rid of this technology was obviously the war on drugs back in the day. And obviously, because we were using the hemp oil, we're using the hemp as medicine. And Big Pharma says we're just gonna have to get rid of you guys, and we're just gonna have to do our own stuff. And they burned the books. They got rid of every piece of equipment. They turned every stone. Nobody has the technology. It's only from our ancestors. How we want to go about that, trial and error. And that's what's so complicated about this industry. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. And Winona said it best, we're going to have to go back to canvas, start making some stuff. But no, that being said, hemp can be used for a different variety of different things. And obviously I'll show you some samples here. Behind us is our lovely hemp wood right here for flooring. And we had a comment about that in our
The hemp wood.
there. So this is a combination between soy-based meal compressed with hemp, which is the whole stock and all, with a little bit of glue, pressure, marry these two together, and it's 20% stronger than oak boards. This combo.
Okay.
And that's what we're getting into is the construction part of it. So we have that wood, what you're seeing back in the background here. That's in one of our museums in Park Rapids. And Mr. Greg Wilson, as you've seen on one of our slides from Murray, Kentucky, he found the algorithm for hemp, for the grains. He found out what could be marry what. And he's got soy that nobody uses, hemp, marrying them together, making this wonderful product called hemp wood. And he didn't stop there. That's just one of the varieties that he makes is hemp wood, hemp flooring. He's got color that goes into hemp. You can have it in gray, you can have it in natural, you can have it in a different variety of different things. And what's so cool about his facility in Murray, Kentucky is he's got a facility on the river that he uses water to generate electricity. And obviously, hemp, he's got 2 facilities down there. And they're very unique because he uses the whole product of the hemp, the whole stock, the whole 9 yards. He actually heats his heaters that basically are for the drying racks to glue these together. He's using the byproduct of sawdust, hemp to heat his shop. And whatever comes out of there gets into biochar. He's got a machine that the biochar, the waste comes out of there, and he sells the biochar, he sells the bioplastics, he sells the hemp wood, he sells the whole thing that could come out of the plant. He's got it figured out. And he gives back to the farmers for the biochar, goes back into the fields for soil. And that's just, on a different level and a different scale. He's thought about integrating all those aspects of hemp. And he didn't just stop there. He's making tabletops. He's making OHB, Oriental Hemp Board. And he's figured out the algorithm where he lays the grains as such, so that they won't break. They'll pass what we call the ASTM certification, which is in the construction world. That's what you got to get up to the building code. And right now he was on the verge of trying to solve the water problem because hemp has to be right around the moisture content. It is about 9%, 8 to 9% moisture, because you get that contract and shrinkage, and it's got to be about 8 to 9%. And what we all know of hemp is it sucks moisture, and he's trying to repel moisture. So I think he figured out the problem there, and he's scared because in the industry what we are now, you're going to buy OHB at about $80 to $85 a sheet. And he don't think that's sustainable because you're basically going to hide it under wrap. You're going to side your house with it. And so yeah, that's one of the cool things that we envision of everything coming. And that's just one of the many things that hemp can be made with. And we talked about hemp. There's hempcrete house, which we talked about earlier. You can either do the panel that's already pre-assembled, Or you can do the E-Reezy, which Cameron did in New York, made houses out of that. And he's selling a special machine that does hemp, and he buys all of his product overseas. And he's paying about $2.20 a pound. That's shipping, overseas, and it's roughly anywhere, depending on where you want to get your local herd to do housing, which would be right around 30 to 50 cents a pound. So that being said, there's hemp batteries, which Winona will probably talk about. There we can do hemp rope and hemp canvas. And there's woven, there's non-woven for automotive industries. There's feminine products that can be made out of. Sunglasses were made out of hemp. There's so much that hemp can do. And we just got to figure out how and who is willing to take that next step for the processors. What is the criteria of Levi's, Carhartt, Patagonia, all these manufacturers that want to integrate hemp into the products? And is the consumer going to be paying more for that? The jeans are going to last you, the sweater is going to last you for 5 to 7 years longer. You're going to pay the extra $30 to $40, whatever, per unit. Who's going to take that cost? So that's where we're kind of at in the market of hemp. And people can grow it. People been growing it for years. It's how do we evolve to the next stage, and that is finding out sky's the limit for hemp. We can do a lot of things, but we need to find the right setup to do what is required in this industry. Any questions so far?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So you're growing massive fields right now,
Yes.
and you want to see if we would grow massive fields as well.
Yes.
So how do we coordinate that? Are you going to provide the seeds? Are you going to come out and help us cut it? Or are we going to cut it and then mail it to you? What do we have to do at the end?
Well, it starts with, we started a cooperative in Minnesota here. And we're just going regional here with South Dakota, North Dakota, Minnesota, and
Well, I'm Michigan.
yeah. But anyway, that's why we bought the equipment. We bought the equipment, so the intention of everybody, not eating the cost of the equipment. We all want to be successful.
So the
in the realm.
supply chain is going to go from you to each one of us and then back to you as the co-op? No.
I don't think so. I'm going to just chime in.
Yeah.
I think that what we're trying to do is figure out what we need. And we're really focused on kind of like, I want to say the Dakotas and northern Minnesota, because you're trying to scale it. What we see is essential is a set of replicable industries that need to be regionally based, because you don't want to ship the hemp around the country like we just did, right? And we also you saw IRA last week. So IRA is working on a whole different set of projects down there with bioremediation and artisan weaving, and then so for this year, I think that I don't know where people are at in their production, but I think the first thing is to figure out how to do it, right? Now, in our first year, we didn't have the fancy equipment. For the first 6 years, we didn't have any fancy equipment. We used a sickle mower, like stuff that you use for basic farming, tractor, sickle mower, like a lot of that stuff, but we also like macheted it and made it into like these little teepees, which I think are called shocks, and then you can get the seeds off of them, and then you can process that with various decortication equipment. You know, you can do the hand decorticator, which Ira talked about, which goes like this. You know what I'm saying? That's like real old school, but it works. You know, part of it is kind of getting to know the plant from my perspective, right? And then you start scaling when you get a few people. But you're going to need, like, say, you know, so let's just give you an example. So say we wanted to do a hemp wood facility and make
HB.
what is it called?
HB.
Oriented hemp strand
Orient,
board.
yep, Oriental hemp board. Yep.
OHB, or whatever
Yep.
they're calling that stuff, right? Or maybe we just wanted to make hemp flooring. Well, that thing needs you need about 700 acres. I think I said this in the first class. So you might need like 700 acres to do a facility that would really increase the value of your product for sale. Because you'd have something that then you'll be selling, right? And that might be, or textiles, but you're gonna have a number of products that are produced out of it, including seeds, which is why you need a combine, because you want to start getting your seeds so that we can get seeds and make the future instead of just giving our seeds away, right? So having said that, you need to rotate your crop. And so maybe you need, say 400 acres or 500 acres. Well, you need like a few farmers that are going to come up with that, because you can't grow hemp year after year after year in the same spot, right? And so you got to organize at that level. Now we have this Indigenous Hemp and Cannabis Farmers Cooperative, and we can, I think Esther will help us like share the material and information on that. We don't exactly know how to organize it. I mean, I was at Cheyenne River last week or 2 weeks ago. I did class from Cheyenne River, and they're like, we want to organize a co-op. I was like, that's great. We should organize a bunch of them and collaborate with knowledge, technology, and then eventually there's like financing that's available, but we have to get ourselves set for all of that. And we want to buy the right equipment for the right, for what we're doing, right? But, you could do like we did, get your bales, put your big, I mean, I got bales out here in my, in the barn out here. They're actually Jerry Lee's bales, but they're like, this big. They weigh like 800, 900, 1,000 pounds or something like that. Then you could, you don't want to be shipping those far. That's why you want to build this regional local industry. But, we're happy to share with you our information on developing the cooperative, and I think the basics is starting to talk to farmers about starting, get familiar with it. Then we start talking about getting the right seeds together, and maybe, we can, order some seeds. And then I think that what we're going to be the best at, us people of Minnesota, is sharing what we know. And then as we figure out, because Anishinaabe agriculture that Jerry Lee directs has been working, chasing every crazy lead. I've seen so much crazy stuff, crazy warehouses full of all kind of crazy equipment. I said crazy like 5 times, but my point is that everybody doesn't want to go buy that crazy stuff. We want to know the right crazy stuff to buy, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what we're trying to figure out. And, so I think that one of the goals is like, there should be, and we're going to NOCO Hemp Conference next weekend or 2 weeks from now, I think. And, we're going to learn there, but we need like a work group or like a class. Like this is 101, but we need Hemp 404, where you're talking just equipment. You know what I'm saying? Or so this is introduction, but we need to like know the latest. Basscore figured this out last month. That's great. Because those guys are figuring it out. But the thing is that we don't want to ship to Basscore in Alabama, 1 time, 2 times. We want to own, I'm not gonna say we want to own Basscore, but we want to own that equipment over here on the White Earth Reservation or someplace in the 1855 treaty territory, so that we can do it all here. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I'm saying we don't have like one easy answer. We can say, Esther's going to help us. 1, lists of places to get seeds. 2, lists of equipment that we are presently using. Is Esther sitting there, Jerry Lee, taking notes? Oh, good. Esther's taking notes, right?
1, 2, number 1, email hemp seed website students. See, I'm
Right.
starting. Yeah, I'm doing good.
Yeah, because we'll share what we know, and we'll also say, man, that was a mistake. We haven't had too many of those, but and then the other thing is, remember, everything is kind of like geographically and soil specific, right? I mean, there's some general things, but guy from Alaska, I don't know when to tell you to plant. But I know that you got 24-hour sun all summer, so I know you could grow hemp, but it's not 90 days, it's like 60 days, 80 days. You know what I'm saying is that you if you get that much sunlight, you can grow hemp. You can grow hemp. But like I said, depends on what you're doing. But start small. That's me. I start small and then I grow after I figure it out. Ron,
Can
I
I
see
say
your, of
something?
course.
Yeah. go ahead.
This guy in Homer, he said that you could grow for fiber all day outside in Alaska.
I think you could. I mean, I don't know what I mean, you could make fishing nets. I mean, you don't need to make jeans. Why make jeans if you could make fishing nets? If
Yeah.
you could make all the ropes for the nautical industry and this, the fishermen of Alaska, why wouldn't you do that? So just think of the many options. And then I don't know, Jerry Lee, do we have a picture of that cool check equipment we just bought? I don't know, we probably got that someplace. So Esther could probably find it, but we bought this cool check equipment. We got a grant, and it's supposed to be long fiber decortication and processing equipment. It's like,
Mhm.
It's the smaller equipment. It's probably like 20, is it like 20 feet for this worth of equipment? Something like that, Jerry Lee.
Yes, yep, it's about 20 to 30 feet of equipment. We got it set up in our facility here. We just got to get our power ran to it, and we're gonna do some test trials of what it can do.
And all we know is that the Czech people were using it.
Yep.
This is the equipment the Czechs use, but it's not like the great big equipment that Basscor uses. You can't unload a round bale into it. You got to hand feed it, right? Y'all follow me on this discussion? Like round bale feeder, like big equipment, you got to unroll it with that's one scale. And then this is cottage as opposed to artisan. I think is like, I don't know what what I'm saying is that this is another step up as far as value added production. But I tell you what, as soon as Jerry Lee and the geniuses that we work together get to work with figure out how to operate that, we'll show you. We'll go video ourselves doing it. So you can see what our cool Czech equipment looks like. But our first equipment was the Chinese equipment. And now we're looking at Czech. But what you'll note is that we don't make any equipment in the United States. Did I just say that? We don't mill anything, we don't do any of this stuff here anymore. We offshored it all. And so if you want to build a hemp industry, maybe we ought to figure out how to build the equipment too.
All right. That sounds good, Winona. Going any other questions that
Can I ask one more?
Yeah, go ahead.
What district would Michigan be in? Would we share other states like you are when we create the co-op?
I think you should look at who's doing what out there. Like I know Menominees in Wisconsin are working on hemp, but I know that, and there's a bunch of people, I think after like Minnesota, North Dakota, and Wisconsin were the largest hemp producing states, from what I know. And I don't know about Michigan, but Michigan, a lot of people just want to grow cannabis out there. So, just pick a region and
Yeah.
just find some friends. Michigan's a big state, it depends on what you're trying to do.
We've had a couple of associations just call it quits. So, and we had 600 applicants or 600 growers in Michigan, and we're down to 9 licensed growers in Michigan.
Yep.
But yeah.
It just-
Sounds like Minnesota. We started with 7 and we're back to 11, I think, or something. Isn't that about? Oh no.
Yeah, and I think that's going to change here with the evolving, state regulations on cannabis. And what that market's going to do is obviously drive a lot of farmers away from there because this is not for the faint of heart. It's not a quick get rich scheme. And we're here just to not really prove a point, but obviously grow good products and tell the has-beens that this is what you should have did because it's safer. You can't smoke it. You can't get high off this stuff. To popular belief, it looks like it. It always don't taste like it. So we put that even in our fields and our signs, and people still don't understand the concept. This is free. Let's just go rate it.
So I have a question. You mentioned that you don't want to grow hemp continually. Why? Because it's a heavy feeder, or because it uptakes nitrogen. So maybe you want to plant alfalfa. You want to grow hemp for a while. Could you speak a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. And I think you hit the nail on the head there. You want crop rotation because because certain crops, and that's that's what we're trying to figure out too in AAI is the correct crop rotation. So we talked about perennials, what we talked about in our inner discussion. And obviously we're only going to do hemp for a couple of years in the same field, but we got to jump it around. So we got alfalfa, we had oats, we talked about Kernza, we had
Beans.
red clover, and
Mhm.
we're just trying to figure that all out to where that pertained to because, this is what we try to talk to farmers of America about is obviously this is going to be into the good crop rotation. And we just got to figure out, the science of what it's really doing, how much nitrogen is it taking? What's that look like for the ground? And that's why it goes back to the point about soil remediation. It's cleaning up things in the ground that's
Mhm.
over time, whether you had pesticides, herbicides, some metals in the ground, leaching into the ground. It helps with that. So every couple of years, you're going to do, on a crop rotation, whether it's soybeans, wheat, canola, flax, what have you. You just got to find that right combination. And there again, we don't know it all. We've been working with local farmers down the road, and this is the first that they've dealt with hemp. Because everybody's so scared of it, because they don't know the ins and the outs of what we know in this industry. And we're just trying to be good stewards of the land and make sure like we're doing our part, and we're going green. So we want to help the economy out. We want to get less carbon footprint if possible. And that's why it's so uh, prevalent that we find these manufacturers that are close to home so that we don't have to ship everything all across, country and drive the price up of our products. And it's kind of hard because, this industry when we first started there was only a few handful between processors. Now there's people are actually ponying up millions of dollars for these facilities, and they're trying to, get in on the game of construction materials. And we're just trying to break through that cycle right now. And that was a good question. Thank you.
Mhm.
Anybody else? Did that answer your question? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
And I
Anybody
wanted to
else?
say, I just wanted to say that my initial research, it looked like the tobacco growing regions are the ones converting to hemp because they have the land, they have the drying, whatever they would be, warehouses, and tobacco's being marginalized as a product. So in those states the hemp is legal, it's been legal already for a while, like 7 or 8 years. Hemp, Kentucky, Louisiana, I forget the other state, there was 3 of them, mostly in the South. And so that's what I know. I think California's going to go there too, because the Central Valley is a region that could be growing, and everybody's wanting to replace plastic, except the plastic producers, of course.
Absolutely. And obviously that's putting a strain on everybody else. Is that now that I was just doing some research about hemp Lego block that's down in Florida. They got a company down there that basically he's got a mold that he makes, and basically you can uh, build a house or build your basement with these Lego blocks. And they're about a foot thick. They have the R value of like I think 40, And yeah, they're just and then they'll build them to your specs. You know what I mean? Like how long, half a block, you know, and you just basically put them together just like Lego blocks. There's things that are coming, you know, things that are coming from a lot of different places around the world. You know,
The
a lot,
green
you know, yeah, the
sorry.
green,
The
the
greenhouse industry too, like pots for plants. That
yeah.
plastic is such a waste. Sorry.
Hmm. Yeah, and also, you know, and you know, we didn't even talk about, you know, like there's processes to, you know, the hemp here, you know, the hemp fiber. You know, you can, you know, what's termed as degumming, and you can degum that into like what looks like a cotton. And you can blend that into your, you know, to uh your weavable stuff, blend. And we're just trying to figure out the combination of, you know, what would be good with wool or hemp, or is it poly, is it whatever, you know, and these are some of the challenges that we face, and the manufacturers, do they want to take a risk on this stuff? And how they can obtain this machinery to make this
She's back.
yeah. All right. So any other questions we got? Any challenges anybody faces?
How about
Um,
I still got a question about lime.
Yeah.
Does the lime have to be dry or
Yeah, that's just that. Yes, it does. It just depending on, like you said, how you're going to do things, and we're actually going to be going down to a class here because we're going to buy this e thing from Cameron, and you got to have a certification, authentication of this machinery, and we're going to either have a facility, something set up for him to come here, or we're going to go to him, and then we're going to go through the whole process of spray, you
is
know,
there any
spraying in. Yeah, go ahead.
is there any professionals or anybody that could grade lime deposits in Alaska to see if it's good enough to utilize our own hemp lime?
No, not that I'm aware of. A couple weeks ago, I was in a conference, and the lady, I think she was from what, New York? Anyway, she was trying to do her own lime. Like she was trying to get her own lime agent for hempcrete, you know, in Minnesota. So I don't know where she's at on that. We could probably just send you her her particulars, email, phone number, and probably discuss that with her because she's on the trying to get lime in the United States, my own manufacturer.
Nice, yeah, because there's a lime deposit that's right off the road here in Alaska that I talked to uh some lands people about, and so I was just wondering about that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think that
Anybody else?
that's part of the research that we're trying to figure out because, you know, I'm looking at the $63 a bag from France for
Yeah.
one of our, you know, and I'm like, huh, there's got to be a way to make this stuff here.
What
And
about
so that's going to
how
be part of
much?
our research, I think, collectively, is how to do it. And you don't have to use hemp. It's called hemp lime, but people are doing hemp cob, you know, with different clays and stuff too. It, you know, Ira's doing that. It, you know, there's many options, but and I believe that they've just I'm not sure if the US Building Codes Association, you know, there's certain kinds that are approved for building codes. And that's part of what we're talking about here is getting the right that's approved. But I think that a lot of that is an emergent industry with the correct products in it. So I don't, you know, you can look at some of these books on it, but like you know, University of Alaska, somebody should put a little bit of legwork into figuring out what local sources are, you know, for all of these. I just feel like that, you know, the little lowly farmers here, that's a lot of stuff to figure out. But we
Yeah,
will. We
because I
will.
think hemp would be. I really like the benefits of hemp for Alaska.
Hmm.
Because Alaska is only gonna grow. The first road to the interior is already being built. But yeah, I was just wondering about the lime deposit. Yeah, I got more questions, and hopefully I could contact that lady and ask. Is there a density in the lime that has to be in the dryness of it being dry, or I just have questions like that.
Yeah, and then as Winona, just recently said, we're researching all that because, we're not all experts here. And that's why it's $64 a bag, because we got to do our legwork. We got to do our homework on some of this stuff. And obviously, people go broke off $64 a bag.
Yep, same way. I'm paying $60 a bag for lime.
How much
Okay.
an acre does the bag last?
That will vary with your mixture of your herd. So you're
Okay.
mixing that with a herd, and they won't give you those secret instructions until you get the authenticity and you do trial and error.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Anybody else?
Well, I'd just say that instead of being a tourist attraction, our lime kiln here in Decorah, Iowa, could be an actual lime kiln again. You know,
Love that.
That's one of those cat. Anybody
this
else?
is from Sinufo country in West Africa,
Hmm.
right? Where they're building, their little houses, right?
Mhm.
And in fact, whole villages,
Good juice.
right? With mud, with lime, with fiber. We don't have to be slaves for housing, right? And not only that, but women and children are building these, right? These are beautiful places to live. And you can have shared kitchen and bathroom and stuff like that. But anyway, I don't want to live in square boxes. I want to live in women built. I don't know.
Well, that's a great vision. I'm glad you shared that.
I mean, of course, men help, right? It's not just women built, but women and children. And it's not just, in the United States, men are like building everything out of their consciousness, and it's so square. And women, I swear, when we build out of our heart and our hands, and we build in the round. And I think this is so beautiful. And we build for community, just like I'm from an African heritage, but just like the Native Americans built from a community perspective on building. And I feel that those values are so important to what we are all doing here. So thank you. Thank you very much for this class.
And in California, we're doing a cob. We actually got some of the first federal dollars about 11 years ago from the A&A grant to teach the tribes how to build cob houses with hands. We trained about 30 people from the tribal areas, and they're starting to replicate that. We call them camping lodges. They're 10 by 12, so that we don't need building permits. And they're just freestanding buildings. And we are building a central house that has the kitchen, bathrooms, and stuff like that. Right now we have purchased the land in 1998. We've been doing experimental building and teaching the county and the other tribes in the region. We've actually done training programs.
Mm-hmm. Yes, same way. I keep my things very small, 12 to 15 feet in diameter, so that I don't have to deal with building codes and stuff like that. You can call them a cob zebo, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what we've been doing and we've done. And so people come out and do tours and then can replicate it in their own homes or on their reservations. We're working now with the government agencies to show them how the connection between water, forest, construction, all those things are linked together. And I put our website in the chat. Because that stuff we've been working on,
Thank
like I
you.
said, since 1998, and really using it as a leverage point to influence policy changes. Like I called with the Cal MTA, that decarbonization in California, putting that, because we have the history of an organization and we've been training people for the last 12 years, that gives us credibility to share our sample now with the people that are hired by the government to be regulating water and land use. So that's the other part of just the growing, is the, changing the laws and the policies.
Great.
Great work.
That's cool.
Let's get done.
Susie, whatever you want, boss.
All right. What do you think, Winona?
I think it's about time to close up, and I don't know what class we're bringing you next week. Is it building? We got a bunch of really exciting classes coming up, and I know that Esther was kind of working with some folks on their schedule, but we will
Yeah,
have a class. Oh,
I hope that they
perfect.
got that. I hope they got the updated syllabus to everybody, and that you can find the. So when you go to your Hemp 101 2024, the website, on the top is the little YouTube icon on the top right of the page. Click on that. It should take you to any of the videos, prior videos. This one should be hopefully uploaded like tonight or tomorrow. But so we updated the syllabus a little bit, and I think next week is, yeah, hemp building part. No, it's supposed to be processing, hemp processing and research. But
We'll
we
let
haven't
you
heard back.
know,
We,
and then
it's a little
and then-
fluid, but we're gonna get better, some more experts. Cameron McIntosh, from the guy who invented the E-Reezy sprayer that we talked about, that imports the lime from France. He's gonna know exactly why, like the material science reason why it has to be that particular one for his equipment. And yeah, so we're lining some more people up. So
And then Esther, where's like the information on where to buy seeds and some of the other information? Is that going to be on the same website, or is that how
yeah.
we?
Yeah, it's taking a little bit to get things. So if it's easier for everyone, I could just like shoot those through the email to everybody, and then they'll get uploaded up onto the website eventually. But maybe just
Yeah,
direct
let's-
emailing the group for now is gonna work
Yeah,
too.
that'd be
and-
great.
Okay.
And then
great.
we'll try to put them on the website, because a lot of this information is stuff that people really want to know, and we're so busy researching it. We want to make sure that what we know we can share. But you all, thank you again for coming out. And Jerry Lee, that was incredibly instructive, and it was fun listening to it too.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, we're not all experts here, and I know we probably skipped a few things, but hemp is on the cutting edge of everything. So I'm just glad everybody had interaction with us, and no question was a stupid question. We're all learning here. So thank you all for participating in our Hemp 101.
Thank
Appreciate
you
it,
so
guys.
much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yep.
See you next time.